All right, my friends, welcome back. So today we're going to do a interesting MotorWeek retro review, which is the 1987 Nissan van and Mitsubishi Wagon. Now, I've got to say, I love watching these things, and it's reached a point I've decided I'm just going to turn on the camera whenever one catches my eye. I have an endless stream of these things coming up, and I don't know anything about these. So when I do these, I don't watch these in advance, right? I'm not prepping for anything, which is why you have long, awkward silences from me, but I don't know really anything about these two vehicles. I remember seeing a few back in the 80s. I don't know anybody that owned one. I've never driven one. My impression is that when Chrysler caught the industry flat-footed with the minivans, automakers went out there and just kind of rummaged around in their toy box and was like, well, we've got this, we'll offer it. And so I really get the impression that these are a couple of JDM products that Mitsubishi and Nissan cobbled together to meet American regulations and threw them over here to see what happens. So I'm expecting this to be super quirky. While I don't actually know anything about them, I just believe neither one of them had to be a very good seller, while the manufacturers figured out how to make a minivan to American taste. So let's jump into it.
MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm.
Now this is the new Nissan van. Nearly 2 years ago, we showed you a comparison test of minivans that drew more comments than just about any show we've ever produced. Well, now we have to update our minivan file with the Nissan van and the Mitsubishi Wagon. We knew that other...
Maybe I need to go back and check that other one if it got a lot of comments. But this, what a cool little van. I mean, in like a weird way, but look at how huge the glass is at the front here. Those A-pillars are like, I mean, the size of your wrist. It looks like a concept more than something that was in production. You know what I mean? So let's continue on.
Makers would get in on the act sooner or later, but it turned out to be later. So what new ideas have they brought to the market? Maybe fewer than you think. Because the Nissan van and the Mitsubishi Wagon are aiming for Toyota's end of the van market. Both new Japanese entries look like the Toyota, and both are roughly the same size. Nissan's van is the longer of the two and rides on a 92.5-inch wheelbase. It comes for families only. There's no panel or utility version.
Look how tiny that little wheelbase looks. It looks like they took a Nissan Sentra and then put a van body on top of it. I mean, let's face it, these things look like delivery vans, right? Cargo vans more than anything else. Again, I don't know anything about them, so if these were actually designed originally as cargo delivery vans in Japan and then converted for passengers, I'd totally believe it. The door is huge. Look at how monstrously large that front door is, but it's because the wheel's where it is. They've got this, they still end up with this tiny little space, it looks like, to step in. How cool.
There are two trim levels. The $12,799 XE and this Highline $13,999 GXE.
You know it's going to be fast. I'm just going to say up front, say what you will about Japanese JDM market, you know, not having a lot of power because of engine restrictions, but it's got a hood scoop, guys. This is going to be a burner. I bet it.
GXE. Both come with a plush interior and lots of standard features that include a tilt wheel, AM/FM stereo, intermittent wipers, and a power right-side mirror. A tachometer is standard too, but not readouts for oil pressure or volts. And everything's pretty much where you can see it.
God, the 80s had some ugly dashboards. I'm just going to say, I mean, granted, I'm an engineering kind of guy, but come on, do we really need the grid paper behind it? And you got to love the 80s. I love watching these old shows. I've said it before, where it's like, it comes well equipped. It has a tilt steering wheel and a radio and one power mirror. That was luxury.
It's getting into the van that's the problem. As on the Toyota minivan, the front wheels can get in the way. Once you're inside, though, there's plenty of room. But the front seats are hard and don't offer much support. They do have folding armrests. And as on the Toyota, you can order a small ice-making refrigerator to keep your drinks cold.
Oh, that's pretty freaking cool in 1987. I mean, you remember Dodge had, what was it, the Cool Zone glove compartment, and you'll see things like this every once in a while now on cars, right? Like we're in the center armrest, you can cool things in there. I didn't realize it had an ice maker in 1987. Freaking cool. I need to go back and watch the other one with the Toyota. I've never seen that one.
And again, like the Toyota, there's a large right-side center door that's plenty wide, but not all that high. It slides rearward, as in most vans. Combinations of seating in the Nissan are almost endless. The GXE's middle captain's chairs can be folded, or turned, or easily removed. If you want, you can even remove the middle seats and replace them with a rear seat to carry 5 passengers and extra cargo.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of that before. So a lot of times in vans you'll have, used to have, the option, do you want captain's chairs or do you want a bench? The ability to take the bench from the back and move it up to the second row and then have it, that's cool. I like that idea. I like that a lot. Of course, if you've ever owned a minivan, that means you have 2 captain's chairs sitting in your garage, and each one of them weighs roughly the same amount as a neutron star when you're trying to lift them out of the van.
Other passenger considerations include heater ducts and controls for the rear passengers. Again, as on the Toyota, you can also order twin sunroofs, a pop-up one for the front and a large sliding one for the rear. But there is some...
Again, that is really forward-thinking because, that's become so much more popular now with sport utility vehicles, right? Having these huge sunroofs, and everybody really likes them for the light they let in. But look at this. I mean, Nissan had that 20 some odd years ago, 33 years ago. That's smart thinking.
Something that only the Nissan van has. 2 ways of getting into the rear luggage area. The window opens as well as the full hatch. Of course, for all those conveniences, you must pay a price. The engine is wedged in between the front passengers. You get to it from under the driver's seat. Power then goes to the rear wheels. The power unit...
Well, at least it's front-engined. It's not stuck back there in the back. But I've never worked on an engine like that, and I have exactly zero desire to in my entire life. That just looks like a nightmare to me.
It is the same 2.4-liter 4-cylinder that's been in a number of Nissans over the years. It comes mated to a 4-speed automatic in the GXE and makes 106 horsepower with 137 pound-feet of torque. But the van has 3,700 pounds of bulk to pull. That translates to a 0 to 60 time of 19 seconds and a 40 to 55 passing time of 7 seconds.
19 seconds. Okay. 2 comments. The first is, if I remember correctly from the retro review of Econo boxes, I want to say the Renault Le Car took 21. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've got in my head. 19 seconds is unbelievably slow. Like walking speed. I mean, that's just amazing. That's hilarious. And that's empty. 106 horsepower dragging that thing to 19 seconds while empty. Now, put 5 people in there and their luggage in the back because you're on your way to the beach for a holiday, and how unsafely slow would that have been?
Both figures are what we call slow, embarrassingly slow. The base van's 5-speed manual should make acceleration more credible. And we weren't too impressed with the Nissan's brakes either. Our test van had one of the longest stopping averages we've recorded in years, 152 feet from 55. We found braking ability decreased rapidly as the brakes heated, and some drivers found the brake pedal disconcerting because it's so small. The van...
Over 150 feet. Now, the ones I've done before, 130, 128, 134, that's kind of the numbers that I have rattling in my head here. So this is taking 20 extra feet to stop. That's unbelievable. Make the brakes bigger. I mean, how hard should that actually be? But did you see the nose squat on that thing? So you've got this angled nose, the driver's sitting here, you hit the brakes, and it's like pitching you forward. Oh, no one. Again, I don't know what the sales were on these things, how many they sold, but it can't have been many. This is interesting. It has a couple of interesting thoughts, but I can't imagine that if somebody drove this and then went and drove a Dodge Caravan, that this would be the choice they'd have.
Van's handling, though, isn't bad, considering. The Nissan feels fairly nimble and body roll is moderate. Front-end plow tells you when you're going too fast. The only real annoyance is power steering boost that poops out when you cut the wheel hard. But the Nissan is stable on the highway, reasonably comfortable and fairly quiet. We recorded an interior sound level of 70 decibels at 55. As for mileage, the EPA ratings are 18 city and 21 highway, but the best we could do was 18. However, the Nissan does have a big 17.5-gallon fuel tank. So mileage didn't top our list of hits. Interior flexibility, utility, and standard features did. We also like the Nissan's generous front passenger room. On the miss side, the Nissan van needs more power, better brakes, and more comfortable and supportive front seats. From the Nissan van, we go to the Mitsubishi Wagon. Unlike the Toyota and Nissan, it's called a wagon. Unless, of course, you order it in its windowless form, in which case it is called a van. In either case, the Mitsubishi Van Wagon has a short 88-inch wheelbase, shorter than most mini cars. Styling is boxier and less appealing than the Nissans.
Yeah, that has like no real style to it. I want to like it. I almost do, because it's like, again, like, you know, hand a kid a piece of paper and a crayon and say, draw a van. This is what they could do, you know, 2 little wheels and a trace out. I mean, that's slightly more aerodynamic than a Volkswagen bus, but overall, it doesn't work for me. I mean, I think it's this middle window right here that looks like I don't know, something off of an RV. I do notice up here at the front, on the front door, they've got the cut down, kind of what you see on the F-150 now, for example, to kind of improve that lower visibility right there. But it's, I don't know, not the most attractive vehicle.
The base wagon begins at $12,999. This top LS would cost you $14,289, slightly more expensive than the Nissan when equipped the same. But getting inside is even tougher here, and there's less shoulder room. But we're happy to say the seats are much more comfortable. Instrumentation is sparse, though there is a tachometer, which isn't all that useful since the Mitsubishi Wagon comes only with an automatic transmission. As for utility, the Mitsubishi is bigger on the inside than it looks. The seats are set up about the same as in the Nissan. The center ones swivel and also fold flat. And middle passengers have 2 sliding windows rather than the single pop-out variety. There are rear heat controls here too. The rear seat is comfortable and folds flat like a bed, but the Mitsubishi does one trick the Nissan won't. If you step around back and open the wagon's one-piece hatch, you'll see the rear seat works like the ones in most station wagons. You can fold it forward, so you won't have to take the seat out to have more cargo room.
That's good thinking right there. I like that, and that seems very obvious now that they're saying it. You know, I know they said the shoulder room was a little narrower up front, but I'd like to say when they showed that view of the back right there and they showed the guy spinning in the seat, there is something to be said for the amount of volume you can get when you have literally just a box and you're not trying to style it at all, right? That was a huge amount of space back there. And it seems to have all the amenities the Nissan did. Interesting.
A nice touch. The wagon's major mechanicals live between the front seats. You have to raise the passenger seat for access. But it's easier to get to things here than in the Nissan.
Now, I'll say one thing right there, and I've never thought about this before in vans and trucks that have the seats, the engine under the front seats like that. You access it from the passenger side. Well, imagine you're a right-handed mechanic and you're reaching in like this. So you'd have the pillar right here by your left shoulder and you're reaching in. I think it would be more comfortable than if you're on the driver's side reaching in like that. I don't know if that's why they did it or not, but that's my first impression. Cool.
Power comes from the same 2.4-liter four-cylinder that you'll find in the Mitsubishi Galant. With those now famous silent shafts, it squeezes out 107 smooth horsepower and
107 smooth horsepower. And that's one more smooth horsepower than whatever the Nissan's kicking out.
pound-feet of torque. Thankfully, the Mitsubishi Wagon goes from 0 to 60 faster than the Nissan van in a reasonable 13 seconds. 40 to 55 passing time is 6 seconds. The Mitsubishi also weighs 300 pounds less than the Nissan van.
That's impressive. I'll be honest with you. You see, Mitsubishi, I have such mixed feelings about them. They made some really cool, reliable cars that were never quite Honda, Nissan, Toyota quality, right? And so they developed kind of a cheap reputation while also making some good performance along the way. But they always just were a little bit cheaper. And then, of course, the company went through a bunch of scandals, and they really became the company for people who couldn't get credit anywhere else. Let's put it that way. And now they're maybe they're clawing their way back. And it really bothers me because they've got the resources, they've got the engineering know-how, they've got some really clever thinking along the way. I really do view them as kind of an engineering company. And that's really impressive. They made a van 300 pounds lighter than the Nissan. The engine is basically the same, okay, 1 horsepower more, but 6 seconds faster to 60 miles an hour and 1 second faster on the passing. That's pretty impressive. Honestly, I mean, still, I don't think this is fast. I don't think it's the leader of the pack of minivans back then, but that's pretty impressive. Mitsubishi, they could do some smart things. It just never seemed to be able to do it all at the same time.
And its brakes are better too, at least in numbers. They pulled the wagon down from 55 in a short 105 feet. But as for subjective impressions, the wagon stops like a duck diving for its dinner. The front end hunts for asphalt while the rear end takes to the air.
Did you hear that? It stops like a duck diving for dinner. That is genius, and that's why we love this guy. That is hilarious. Again, nosedive, just like I mentioned in the Nissan. Think about this, guys. This van stops almost 50 feet faster than the Nissan. I mean, that's 3 car lengths? 3 car lengths. You know, that's unbelievable. Now, granted, this one is not as stable. It's a little more squirrely. But numbers-wise, this one's pretty impressive.
A good feeling. The wagon's handling isn't quite as disconcerting. The Mitsubishi's short wheelbase makes it feel very nimble. It does take high-speed turns with its rear end wanting to beat the front end through, but that's easy to control. The only thing that's hard to control is the Mitsubishi on a breezy day. It takes to the wind like a rooster on a weather vane. To make matters,
I'm sorry. This dude, I don't know if he liked it or he hated it, but those are two really clever. Takes to the wind like a rooster on a weather vane. That is great.
What's worse, its ride is very choppy, the dark side of that short wheelbase. The EPA rates the wagon at 18 city, 21 highway. Our mileage loop figure was 22.
I'm sorry, I'll stop it again. So the Mitsubishi, granted, apparently gets blown around a lot and it has a choppy ride. Got that. The Nissan, I think, had the same EPA estimates, but they only managed 18. This manages 22. So it goes better, it stops better, and it gets 4 miles per gallon better.
We like the Mitsubishi wagon's maneuverability, utility, and the extra convenience of its folding rear seat. We were also impressed with its acceleration. We didn't like the feel of its brakes, its ride, or its lack of stability in crosswinds. Now we have to answer the obvious question. Which one do we like best? Well, it could go either way. The Nissan's ride is better, while the Mitsubishi has nicer seats. The Nissan is better in crosswinds, while the Mitsubishi accelerates faster. If we had to pick one, though, it would be the Nissan. because of its more pleasing appearance and slightly lower cost. What we'd really like to do is to take the best of each, put them together, and then make the result front-wheel drive. We hope someone hears this, since in our minds, the optimal minivan design has yet to appear.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that one so much. Again, I don't know anything about these vans. I don't think I've ever sat in one, all right, but that was super, super cool. And I'm going to go in just a minute. I'm going to go find the other one they were talking about, if it's available with the Toyota. I'm very curious now to see what that came up as. That was a automotive dead end, at least in America. Maybe these are really popular over in Japan. But really, the minivan template that Dodge came out with won. Right, I don't want to sit on the engine. You know, these short, tiny wheelbases when the move is for longer wheelbases. To me, these are evolutionary dead ends. But when on this channel, I talk about I like interesting cars. You know, sure, I'd like a Ferrari, of course. You know, sure, I'd like a Porsche. But if I'm going to take my money, if this channel takes off and I'm going to take my money, I'm going to go buy something interesting, you know, it's going to be an old 80s hatchback or something like this that maybe is forgotten and is full of quirks and just freaking cool. This is the kind of stuff from the 80s, from Japanese and other manufacturers, that really gets me excited because they're just freaking cool. Now, do I want to drive one every single day, especially if it's blowing like this in the wind? Probably not. But this is the kind of stuff that just gets me excited about cars. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you're here, give me a thumbs up on this video. It really helps the channel. Leave me a positive comment below. But I appreciate you taking your time and spending it with me today. Thanks. Have a great one.